Hello everyone and welcome back to another Mercedes T1 video, sorry. This time I'm going to be showing you how to set up the throttle system. But firstly, I'm also going to be showing you the parts involved if you are renewing it. So Mercedes themselves do sell all of the parts. So on the manifold here, I believe it's the same on the 4 and 5 cylinder versions of the 601 and 602 engines. There is a top throttle spring that is likely to snap. Now mine snapped once down in England, once when I came back to Scotland because I bodged it, and then again in Scotland in Glencoe, and twice it was the same spring, and then it was also a different spring. So the obvious and easy one is the one on the manifold. Now that one you can buy from Mercedes, and I will give you all of the part numbers. Just got to find the right packet. This part number is that. Pause the video. So there you go. You can find that from Mercedes, and also if you just phone them up, they will just ask, given the reg, they will be able to sort you out with that anyway, without even the part number available. Now, also, when you're looking at the engine, right down there, you can just about see the top of another spring. Can you see that there? Now that is the one on the side of the injection pump. Now I bought a pack of 5 of these, because they had a pack of 5, and they said that's all they had. And the part number for that one is, well, let me straighten that out. There you are, A601993. That is an 0810. Oh, so there you go. And that is those little ones. Now they're quite a pain in the ass to fit, but you can do it. There it is, you can see it. Now I can't remember what it actually goes down onto on the injection pump, but it's got to be one of the linkage arms that actually moves, because that top rung is stationary on the injection pump. So down there on the other side of the shaft, that's your throttle linkage that spins when you put the accelerator down. I think on the other side of there's a pivot. Well, as it twists that, it pushes down on the spring. Yeah, it's attached to the bottom of there. I have done it with it in place, but clearly that is very, very fiddly. And I think the way to do it is obviously hook it on the arm down first, and then pull it up, possibly with some pliers. I don't remember using pliers there myself, onto that top piece up there. And then the other thing which I have to replace today is, if you look just back there, there's another strut, and that attaches up here onto the manifold, and what that is a throttle shock absorber. Now I believe I should just be able to pull this off here. Yeah, and that, it's got a little bit of resistance, but it's really floppy. Now I doubt I'll really notice any difference while driving, but when we took my engine apart I did notice that, and I thought might as well buy a new one of them. So you can buy them on eBay for about 17 quid, but I didn't know that at the time. However, Mercedes yet again do sell them, and that is the part number, A601 070 1167. And this one's much better. Which end does it? I think it's this way. Yeah, look. Oh, that's a nice bit of resistance. I can't even hold it there. Ooh. It still has like a bit of free play at the end, but I don't think it goes all the way. It goes in really fast, but I think that's due to design, because one way the spring's pulling it, and then one way you're putting pressure on. So it's just to even it out, so you don't get juddering, and I do get quite a bit of juddering, so hopefully that should fix that, even if I don't really notice much difference. Nice little Mercedes badge stamped on there, which is quite funny. So yeah, I'll take the stickers off now, and let's get this fitted. So by just feeling around back here, I can feel that that goes on to the same arm that the spring is mounted to. So somehow I've got to pop that off, so I'm going to have a fun of doing that right now. Yeah, so you guys can watch me struggle do this now. So that, oh, also, yeah, that top one on my manifold is the black one. They paint in black now, which is quite nice. And that one is the new Mercedes one. The one that was up here is not my snapped one. This was off another engine that it didn't look too rusty. So I thought I'd take it and go, you know, that's probably got some life in it. But no, it snapped. They tend to snap right on the spring points where they get worn on the ball joint things. So yeah, that lasted about a week, about 200 miles, and then that broke. So yeah, might have to buy another as a spare. Let's see, I can get my hand between the intake manifold and then, yeah, just pop it off towards the engine, away from the injection pump. Oh, I levered it against the injection pump because if it snapped I wasn't too fast. I'll keep it as a spare just in case. But yeah, that one's got no dampening in it. No wonder. But this one does still have the part number on it. 601 070 1167. Crazy, you can still just see it stamped on there. Oh yeah, and it's stamped on this one too. Very nice. I don't know if that's overexposed, but just in case you're interested, there it is. It's got Mercedes and also the part number there. So yeah, very nice. We'll see if this makes any difference. If it does, that'd be very nice. Now I hope I can get it back on because at the moment I've got no shock. I can see the ball joint. Why did they put everything between the engine and the and the injection pump? Right, it's on top of the ball joint, but can I press it in? Oh, nearly dropped it. This is fun. This is very fun. The only way I'm getting my hand down there is in between the manifold. But then I can't get the leverage to push it on. Oh. I really can't see what I'm doing. No idea. Nada. Injection pipes. No, I've got my hands stuck now. Oh, I proper had my hand stuck then. Oh, I just had to drop it. I don't know where it's gone now. I don't know how you get this on. I don't know if there's a technique or what. Oh, got the top one on. That doesn't really mean anything. I'm thinking now the top one's on, I can just pull the whole shock. If I can get my fingers down there. Towards. I did not expect this to take so long. I knew it'd be fast, but Jesus Christ. Only way is hand between cylinder 1 and 2. And then somehow, with some miracle, pull it towards me. I'm going to try and get a long screwdriver and see what I can do. But I'll come back once that's on and I'll show you how to properly set up in which order the throttle system. Right, I finally got it sorted. So, if you're kind of recalibrating your throttle setup, what you need to do is you want to make sure that the thread on the back of the pedal back here is wound back a little bit, so that when you wind that back, that will then take the tension off this. That will then take the tension off of this cable, which comes from your throttle cable, and this does the same thing basically. That takes the tension off of it. So you want to make sure that this line coming from the throttle pedal is not affecting that. It wants to have a little bit of wobble to start with. Now, if you know these engines, you'll know they have their warm-up. Now what that's done by is vacuum. Mine's already up to temperature, so bad example. But if you were to pull that off, that's often a problem on these engines. There becomes a hole, or these pop off, and sometimes you need to put a cable tie on. Luckily mine are pretty good. But that is what tells the engine to rev a little bit higher to warm up. Now I'm going to take that off and just move that out of the way for now to make this a bit simpler. All you'll need is just a 19mm spanner, and back behind here there is a lock nut. And if you undo that lock nut, just like that, it's now free. As you turn this with the spanner, that adjusts the RPM of the engine, as you can hear. Lower is clockwise towards the engine. Faster is that way, away from the engine. Sorry, can you see? So I like to have it just trundling, not too many vibrations, just trundling on. You don't want it to be too high. But when you do that lock nut up, I don't have two 19mm spanners, so I tend to have it a little bit higher than what I want. Do that up with my fingers, and then nip this lock nut up, like so, and that will just drop it down a little bit more. But that's not the end of the world, that's kind of where I like it anyway. That is then your engine RPM set, and you can put that back in there, and if she's below 50 degrees she'll start to warm up. Make sure this isn't touching anything though, like they like to rub these cables. Mine was rubbing on this disc for a while here, and then I've got to be careful that that's not rubbing on the ejector lines. It's all over the shop. Your next port of call for adjustment, you do have a bit of adjustment here, but I've never had to touch this one. That is obviously the revs on there. And as you can see, my shock absorber is now working. So then what you want to do is make sure that this arm fully returns. So if when you put your foot, so if I wind this out for a little bit, and I keep winding that out, that tightens the throttle, that tightens this little spring here. And if I put my foot there, you'll notice it's now higher. And if you look at that, sorry, hopefully the audio is better now. If you look at this throttle cable, if I pull it this way, you'll see it moves, because this is too tight. So what you now want to get is, if you need a bit more, you can tighten that throttle back up behind the pedal. But what you want to do is you want to get it so when you do that, that settles and you can't push that back anymore. Mine is rattling. I don't know if Mercedes sell a new one of these, but that ball joint's knackered. That's what's rattling. But yeah, when you do that, you want to be able to not move that back at all, because that gives you good engine braking then. Otherwise you've got really bad engine braking and it's not sat up proper idle because the springs aren't set up properly. So once you've replaced all your springs and your shock absorber, set your RPM here and then adjust this accordingly. Now obviously this is quite far out to give it as much pull, because I think this throttle cable is probably a little bit snapped, to be fair. But as you can hear, there's still a little bit of rattle on there, so that's almost because that's still a little bit too loose. So I'm going to pull that up a bit, and then that's done that. And you want to make sure that that's, again, that didn't move that time. Did move a little bit, so I'm just going to put it in a little bit more, and there you are. So what you want is that when you put your foot on the accelerator, it then fully returns. Otherwise you'll end up with it like not fully returning, and that's not what you want, because the injection pump on idle wants to be sat as far back as that arm will go. That physically won't go back anymore. That is sat where it needs to be sat, which does mean that's vibrating like hell. But when I pop to Mercedes again, I'll see if they do one of them, because that's really annoying. So there, that's a really simple video on how to set up the throttle. The hardest bit was changing the bloody shock absorber, which I still don't know how it's going to drive. I'll have to report back, because it's really resistive and it's slowed down the engine braking, and I really like the engine braking on these vans. So yeah, if it's too annoying, maybe I'll take it off and put this one back on. Anyway, that's the throttles. That's all the part numbers for the 2 throttle springs and the shock absorber, as well as how to set up properly the engine idle when it's just ticking over. You don't want the main throttle cable to be under any tension, because that will mean that your idle isn't actually set in the pump, which is where you want it to be set. See, that's what I originally did. I went, oh, I want to up my idle, and I adjusted the throttle behind the, and I adjusted the adjuster behind the pedal, and then when you take your foot off, it doesn't go all the way back, and you get really terrible engine braking. And sometimes if the engine's like warm, cold, warm, and it's got less resistance, it will really rev down really slow, and sometimes like just almost stay where it was. So that's a good way to get it to return nice and quickly back to how it should be, all set up almost like it was from factory. When I originally got this van, I had no idea. As I say, that's when I did that, and I was like, one day I'll get someone to show me how it all works. But over the time, I've just figured it out myself. So I thought I'd make a video and show you guys how you can properly do that and get it running mint. So yeah, that's her ticking over nicely. And that shock definitely allows it to come back a bit slower. So we'll see how it's like driving, I don't know yet. Maybe I'll stick a bit on the end of this video. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope it helped. Be sure to check out the comments, see if anyone has any corrections on anything I've said. And otherwise, make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.